So we will.
Hi.
One. All capitals, and we are on.
Hello, team. Welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome to Arc Online 2021. I hope everyone's keeping nice and cool on this relatively warm summer's day if you're here in Melbourne. If you're not in Melbourne, hello, welcome. We are very excited to have our panel this afternoon. Just quickly before I introduce our exceptional panelists for this afternoon, a little reminder that we do have our last game session for the weekend coming up. It is not too late to jump in and join a game, so be sure to check out our Discord to see what games are available and what you can jump in on. And we have our Goblins of Zarth. We have our live play event at 4:00 this afternoon as well on this same Twitch channel. So that is also coming up. But without any further ado, my friends, we have an exceptional panel coming up, as I said. And I'm going to very simply pass off to our fabulous host of the panel, Helen. So Helen Graham's been bringing role-playing characters to life since 2017. And she's here today hosting this panel. So I love RPGs. Can I give up my day job? And I will pass it off. Have a great afternoon.
Hi, everybody. Yes, welcome to the panel. We're here to discuss whether you should quit your day job regarding if you want to follow a career in D&D, in roleplay. First, I would like to introduce our lovely panelists. The first one we've got here today is Cassie Leferty, the one-woman band behind Wistful Empire, a graphic designer, illustrator, focused on making cute and adorable RPG accessories like enamel pins, stickers, and dice bags, and more.
Hi.
Next up, we've got Dante, director and co-founder of Arkenforge, a small tabletop software startup from Melbourne. Then Steve D, a multi-award-winning game designer, writer, and publisher, and the president of Tin Star Games.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone. Feel free to ask any questions that you're interested in regarding working in roleplay or any of our sort of specialities. We'll get into that in a moment. I would just like to say, it's great seeing you guys all here, and I hope you're enjoying Arc Online 21. So, if you want to just get the ball rolling, what is it? 2 minutes in, might as well. Our first topic, is quitting your day job. Did you quit your day job? What would you say that joining, or at least starting this job that you've made for yourself or anything like that, how do you think you went about it? Do you have much of a tale to tell?
So for myself, I got into RPGs originally by watching Critical Role, because a friend of mine told me, hey, watch this thing, you'll really like it because you like some of the voice actors that are part of it. And so when the job that I was working at that time finished, I was like, oh, I'm really getting into this. I'll start my own thing. But I really want some really adorable and cute accessories to show my newfound and nerdy obsession. And couldn't find what I wanted anywhere. So I was like, well, you know what? I'll make it then. So I've been doing that since 2018, making enamel pins, just finding more and more stuff that I really enjoy and like, and making them as cute and adorable as possible.
And Dante?
I was working in hospitality, and with our crew, we wanted to start playing D&D as sort of a social activity. And very similar to you, Cassie, we also started having issues where we wanted to have audio and we wanted to have maps and everything. Then we were looking around, and the tools available were either just too difficult to use, or they were just not really good for what we wanted to use them for. So the group happened to have a programmer in there, a story writer, and my brother-in-law is a carpenter. We sort of tossed all of our skills into a bucket and started working on this passion project. It took 3 years until it became an actual day job, and we have quit our other day jobs, but it has been not an easy ride for sure.
Steve?
Yeah, so I've sort of come at this as a freelancer. I always wanted to write in the role-playing industry. So back in the late 90s, I just applied for jobs that were going in different writing for different role-playing games when they did open calls for submissions. And then I began being paid for that in the early 2000s. And I've been a freelancer ever since, doing jobs whenever I can. And I still have a day job. It's never actually tipped over into something that I could do full time, but it's something that I've been earning money from at various levels for 20 years now.
Nice.
And myself, I pretty much came into it in the opposite sort of way as Dante, where I didn't have any jobs or anything like that. I did, though, have a few years of art school under my belt and really enjoyed doing art and really enjoyed talking roleplay specifically with my friends. And we would just spend hours and hours sitting in like restaurants and such back in the day when we could do that. Just talking about our characters and our concepts, and I would just sit there drawing it the whole time through. And so it kind of became an interesting transition into making that something that I could live off of as a job. So I had nothing, and then I just threw myself entirely into this one niche of just doing roleplay art. So it was just character design and commission work for people then, which at the time was not something that, unlike Cassie and unlike Dante, it was something that was already out there. So I had a sort of a model to go by. I saw artists existing doing this already, so I kind of followed that. Whereas Cassie and Dante, I find that you two both found a need for something. You both wanted for something. And so instead of waiting for it to come around, you both went and got it yourself. Would you agree with that? You kind of...
Yeah, so at the time there was a person on Twitch that I was a moderator for her channel, and she made enamel pins. And she was how I got into making enamel pins in general. And I was like, oh, but there's no cute D&D ones. Like, I can't find anything like that. So, I don't know, I suppose I'll make it. And then looking into it, I was like, how do you make it? And like, since then I've run like 3 different Kickstarters and, you know, built up a whole bunch of different products. But that was like the first one where I was just like, is this even something that I can do? But thankfully I chose an item that like I knew people were making these. The precedent was already there for people funding them with Kickstarters, for how to promote them and how to go about talking to manufacturers. All of that already existed. It was just making my own design come to life. So thankfully it wasn't completely just going way off track.
And Dante? Oh yeah.
I was going to say that I think that's just a good example, is that everyone's going to have to find your own voice. And you can look at lots of other people who've made their own pathways, but it's really important to think that you're never going to be able to completely copy somebody. You take what you can and see what's out there, and then go, how can I make my voice be heard and get attention and make money and, you know, in my own way.
Well, like for me, I was like, the way that I saw it was, this is a thing that I want and it doesn't seem to exist. And if I want it, I'm sure someone else out there wants it too.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things where I was like, something seems to be missing.
And that's what got us started as well, because we had a lot of alternatives and we were running 6-7 different software to make sure that we're getting our sessions where we wanted them to be with digital tools. But then rather than, because you can take inspiration from around you and from the market for sure, but also what it was extremely useful for us is like what we don't want and how we don't want to do things. So we've been seeing how other people tackled an issue, and we have sort of boiled it down to why we wouldn't use it as a daily driver, and we built from there.
It's all like we all sort of wanted to get our own sort of vision in terms of writing. For Steve, that's definitely your voice. Vision for you, Cassie, and it's a bit of a mix for you, Dante, in that it's sounds and visions, and it's a whole audioscape if you want it to be. But we all sort of saw what we wanted, and we felt that there was a need for it, and we went for it. And we also had this drive to share our work with someone, because ultimately, no matter what it is, if you start sharing your work, there is definitely going to be, at the very minimum, at least one person who enjoys it. And that's just kind of the credo I go with as a creative person. And that's what I tell every other creative person anyway. If there's something that you love, chances are there's going to be at least one person who loves it and will find it and will enjoy that you make it.
Right.
So, yeah, ultimately, like, there's a lot of community in sort of putting yourself out there a little bit more. And even though it might be a little bit scary, but it is still good that these sort of people do come together, because from what I've experienced in becoming freelance and just doing this entirely on my own, people will support you, whether it's your friends, your family, people who start liking your stuff and they become your community. That's something that I've really liked. So what experiences with community have you guys seen? I'll start with Steve. Let's shake it up.
So yeah, community is really important, especially when you're dealing with frustrations and the limitations of the industry and low income. And certainly, like everything, if you are looking to, even if you're starting up your own industry or whatever, or your own business, you're still always connected to people. And so, it is about who you know, because people can teach you skills. People can tell you the things you don't know. People can connect you to people that that you might not know, and help you find the people that you need to get the skills and the connections to do better and to get more of an audience. So it's really important, and it's also good to get a creative inspiration from other people as well. So whether it's online or at conventions, do seek out your fellow creatives, and make time to discuss your frustrations or your successes and compare notes, because that's where you learn and grow, and that's where we build a scene as well, where we can actually bounce off each other and be more than the sum of our parts, which is really important.
Dante, have you found a community around Arkenforge?
Yeah, I do believe that that's one of our most powerful aspect in the whole project. Like, hats off to every one of you who are standalone freelancers, and I have no idea how you're doing it, because we at least started off with a small team. So when we started off the project, it was a year and a half before we introduced it to anyone else, just to make sure that we got the prototypes and everything right. And for example, Nathan in our team has been very strongly responsible for me being able to keep my mental health in balance and in check, and being able to talk to someone, to unload to, and just and talk about these issues. But as soon as the community was introduced about 2.5 years ago, that is an entirely different world. You just, especially if you're not keeping a distance, because a lot of publishers see authors and are trying to be on sort of a pedestal, and the community is like, I serve you, but I don't necessarily want to be in touch with you. I feel like if you're not in that mentality, it can benefit you a lot. You can also get very valuable feedback, which is sometimes it's not in the format you want, but regardless, you can definitely learn from it. So yeah, I'm very grateful for a community aspect for our project.
Just before you dive into your experience with community, Cassie, I've just got some comments from Twitch right now, and Match1048 says Artist Alley is the best place. Artist Alley is where the best con friends come from. And I definitely agree there. I've met so many amazing people, and Artist Alley is the exact way I met John, who is the leader of Arcanacon itself. And Codename Age. What are your thoughts on GMs charging a fee to run games for players?
I honestly think that it's a really good idea for people if it's not just your friends. If it's someone you don't know and you've generally approached them to, spend their time and their energy and their resources to provide something for you, then they should be compensated for it. I have only played with groups of my own friends, and our DM gets paid in like food, booze, and minis. So, the way of compensation, it can be a little bit different. But I think it's a great idea because, like I said, they're spending hours of their life helping you and providing something for you. Especially
if they're making a campaign up. Like, if it's a homebrew, that's so much mental work and mental gymnastics that you're doing there. I definitely agree with sort of compensating. Even if it is your friend who is DMing, they're still doing a huge effort for you. So I try to find any way that I can to compensate for friends who DM, because it is enough that they are doing that anyway. They're providing this experience for you and your friends. And it's wonderful, and I'm all for paying friends. Like, I love paying friends and like giving them tips and just being like, bit extra, come on, you're worth it. Generally, my friends won't accept it, which is why we managed to give them food and minis and more books. Yes, I'm that same way.
Yeah.
Dante?
On that topic, I definitely feel like there needs to be so some sort of, because there is a legitimate need for professional DMs in our world. It's a big enough thing now that a lot of people use it for different exercises. There are companies who are trying to get their teams involved with this. Other than that, there's also lots of friendly game stores, lots of venues where there is a lot of role playing to be done, and these venues and these places need professionals who know how to provide an inclusive and safe environment for players. They have training on that. They know how people react to different themes. They know the procedures to manage a game. With Arcanacon as well, there's so many things that a DM need to be, or a game master needs to be mindful to be on the team who actually is given the responsibility to deal with a whole group of strangers. So when it comes to, and it also comes on the DMs from, they need to have the skills to manage their own involvement in this as well, because you can have cold and hot things coming from players as well, and you need to know how to silence things that are not welcome at the table in a professional manner, and you also need to know how to encourage someone who, for example, doesn't necessarily want to open up to the team that much. So in that capacity, I think it's a very important job to have paid DMs around. And when it comes to your home tables and your friends getting together, it needs to be your own arrangement. They're putting in their time. Just compare it to how much time you're putting into things, and how important your friend's time it is for you to put in that prep, and then you can go from there.
Exactly.
Just valuing each other's time in any sort of context is, I think, very important. It's a very good thing for everyone to do anyway. Because, everyone's time is our most important resource, as everyone likes to say. So having someone DM something for you and ask for it to be free of charge, that's huge. Just like...
I mean, the thing is that DMing is a skill. Just like for me, product creation is a skill, and for you, drawing is a skill, or for Steve, writing is a skill. I don't think any of those are any less valuable than any of the others,
Yeah.
One thing I really want to stress is that the people who need these GMs aren't just your players; they are shop owners, event organizers, company owners. I can't be at every single con, and I'm often working on my games. I need GMs, and I want to make sure that they're a GM that leaves the people at the table with a sense that they've had the best game of their lives. So I am always looking to pay people to GM if they've got the skills. If you are listening, if you are going to a con or something, and you want to run a game that isn't just like Dungeons & Dragons, probably not, but if you're running anything that's a smaller company like that, get in touch with the company. If nothing else, they'll send you free swag. like prizes or free copies of things, adventures to run. Back in the day, they used to pretty much every company used to have a kind of adventure league group that you could join where you would get free stuff to run at cons. So if you're looking to, if you've got a skill, there are people out there who will probably pay you for it. If you can demonstrate that you're going to add value to that event, that shop, that company, then absolutely,
And definitely it is a skill, and like I said, it's one that's very valuable. I have attempted to learn how to be a DM, but I don't have the interpersonal skills really required to manage a number of people. And so if you are someone that can do that, then go for it. It is an in-demand skill.
If you say that you are this thing, so if you say you're a DM, a professional DM, then you are a professional DM, and you can ask money for that. It's the same sort of way in which any of us maybe got their start, is that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be an artist now, and I'm just going to ask for money for it. It's just it's
exactly.
Any skill can be monetized, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And I think for people who are passionate about those skills that they have, then yes, they should be monetized. Not that if you don't monetize your skills, that's also you can do that. Go for it. Nobody, yeah. But there's plenty of people who could use a compensation for what they do.
Yeah.
Can I just add on that if you are a really good player, if you are someone that brings out good play from other people and really makes a scene come to life, you can probably charge for that as well. So think about that. If you finish a lot of con games and you win prizes and the GMs is going, thank you were really great in that game, you can probably find, maybe not at your friend's game, but again, you might be able to find a way to monetize that.
I think that's just start promoting yourself, so slides us into our next topic of promoting yourself. If you have a skill, if you are a very good player, go for it. Promote yourself as a professional D&D player, a professional Pathfinder player, anything. If you're really keen on making that a hustle of yours, you totally can.
I think the biggest thing in that regard is finding people like you. Everybody loves to bond over similar experiences or hobbies. Everybody loves to find somebody else that they can say, oh, I love this thing too. Oh, you do this as well? That's awesome. So you just gotta hunt down those people and start talking to them.
It brings us back to community, because promoting yourself is kind of finding a community of people who want to support you, right? So how do you guys go about promoting yourself when, as John says in the chat, marketing seems to be a big part of making money, but artistic types tend to hate marketing themselves, so how do you get past this? I know I've struggled with this myself. How do you guys feel about marketing yourself and with your creations especially?
I try not to use the dirty M word.
Marketing or money?
Yeah, marketing. It's not necessarily that it's a bad thing at all. It's just a shift in mindset, in the sense that I don't want to just walk up to someone and say, here, buy my stuff. Imagine if someone did that to you on the street. It's no different online. You want to actually connect with people. You want to find people and say oh, look, here's a thing that lets you show off your nerdy obsession so that others like you can recognize it. Or here's a product that lets you talk to your friends more easily during game. Or here's a story that will pull you all together. It's not just here, buy my thing. It's really a mindset of look, I'm trying to make something to benefit you so that we can all benefit.
It's kind of promoting yourself is less like promoting yourself as a product and more like sharing your community, sharing the passions that you've built up. Because a lot of the time, people who feel strongly and they connect with your work, they are people who share your passions.
Yeah.
How about you, Steve? Sorry.
I just like the personal relationship is often really key, and that's marketing has a lot of silly stuff in it and a lot of things that feel really ghoulish and predatory, but it also a lot like good marketing understands that it is actually about very often creating a personal relationship, a relationship, even if it's a parasocial relationship, it is something that involves an element of trust and an element of I want to give you something that makes your life better, and I've got something that makes that you need. And when you think of it, if you can do that sort of judo in your mind and go, look, I'm not trying to get people hooked on cigarettes or something. I'm trying to find people and communicate to them to like this may make your make your game better. This may make your day better. This may be something that you get to love. And I'm having that I'm looking to just make that connection that I might be the person that you need today to just get something that makes you happy, and I want to give you quality. Then that can help you take away that kind of I'm being creepy and predatory and things like that. So it is think of it in a personal way, and that in a similar sort of sense, like you're promoting yourself. It's creepy sort of to think about having a brand. But you can think of it more about I am trying to communicate to the world who I am, my values, my strengths. So it's not so much that I am a giant logo, but I am putting myself out there and saying and looking for like minds, like Cassie said, we're looking for people who agree with us and share things with us. And so when you're promoting yourself, you are promoting a sense of communication and openness.
I feel like in this sort of context around RPGs, it is also about helping other people express themselves.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we're showing that we can help you express yourself no matter what. How about you, Dante? How do you find the general experience of promoting Arkenforge?
Well, we started off with no relevant marketing experience whatsoever, and that was a position we kept like sort of tossing off to each other within the team. It's like, can you do a post about this? Can you do this? And we kind of still do this to this day, because I feel like me personally, I cannot just go out and market my product if I don't see a need for it, or I don't see that, like you would really, really benefit from it. And anything other than the very solidly defined barrier for me, I find like my dignity is in sort of shambles if I go over to someone and trying to sell something to them that they don't necessarily want. So finding the right crowd and the right venue and the right avenue for you to do your marketing will most certainly give you that boost that you actually will want to do it. For us, it didn't show up at all until we started to form a very small community. And then we got the feedback that, hey, this actually really helped me with this. And I didn't even know I needed this, but that was really a game changer for me. Then they sort of start plugging it to each other. And what we're basically saying is just we were seeing what they were plugging about our software, what was beneficial for them, and really knuckle down and make sure that those experiences are right. And conventions, because conventions were a bunch of people who were already shared a similar interest with us. They wanted to try out this program hands-on, because when you're trying to promote something intangible, unless you give a tangible experience for your users, you can show all the videos you want. There's such a saturated market out there that, you did very well on the video, but when I tried to use this, it was a pain. So just going to cons, showing it to people there, giving them a hands-on experience, and then that's how we started to market our products at the start.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I think because we're all in the RPG space, like RPGs necessitate communication in and of themselves. We know that there are other people there. We know that that's the entire basis of this entire system. And for all of us in particular, yeah, like conventions where people are there that have a similar interest already. For myself, because I've not been able to do many conventions, I've found things like Facebook groups where there are people grouped together that have similar interests. And it's like if you met someone just off the street and you tried to talk to them without knowing anything about them, having that real awkward conversation of like, hi, I'm all of these things. What are all of your things? Do they match at all? Like, it's so awkward. But if you come across somebody that you already know you have a point of connection.
Maybe they saw a pin on your bag.
Exactly. It's just a matter of expanding on that. And like, I find it really helps to remember that like, these are people. They're no different than us. If I don't want to be bombarded with marketing, that's not how I do it. I market to other people the way that I would feel comfortable being marketed to.
Yeah.
So we've got a comment in Twitch that is directed to you, Dante. It sounds like you can sell your product rather than market your product, as in when you are discussing with someone what they're doing and having problems with, you can sell them the solution to their problem. And I thought that was very sweet in that you kind of are selling solutions. I don't know if selling solutions, but yeah, your job is kind of creating solutions for people at the moment, which is very, very, very wonderful.
Find your niche, basically.
Yes, I think finding your niche is incredibly important. And on to our next topic, which is investing your time. How many hours do you dedicate per day to your business, to your passion, what you're seeking your employment in? And yeah, what are the sacrifices you have to make for that to make that sort of work? And with sacrifices, I'm talking about like, say for me, I've had to have less of a social life. The first sacrifice to go was always social life. Because it would take money and it would take time, and it also would take my energy. So I would start putting more of my time rather, to practicing and honing and making my work better. So how about you guys? Have you found found any sacrifices, or have you had to make them rather? Have you got a sort of a regime for your time?
It's definitely difficult. I mean, that's something that always sort of, if people who are struggling say, I can never find the time. And structuring your life so that the writing or the creating comes first takes a lot of work and a lot of shifting, and of your mind and of your actual circumstance, so that you do have space for those things. And it's sometimes true that you just don't have the space or the time or the money. And that's a really big factor, that you can be like, if you have to work 16 hours a day or something, but whatever it is, you might not be able to fit it in, unless you can. Sometimes it's thinking about brainstorming to try and think about ways that you can. Like a friend of mine writes novels because he has an hour and a half commute every morning and every afternoon, so he just uses that time to write on his laptop. So a lot of it is about trying to think about, what can I do with what I have where I am. If your budget is limited, if your time is limited, you try to figure out what you can do with the little that you do have. I've had struggle with a lot of low money. So one thing that I did to just make lots of games is I would make tiny little games that I could put on postcards or business cards and then hand them out at every convention I went to. Because that was something I could get like about $70-$80 to print off 100 postcards. And that was a way to me to publish and get things put into people's hands. So I didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't do a Kickstarter or anything like that, but I found a way to use my resources. So if you have limited time or limited money, it's thinking about how do I can't add more money or more time, so how do I use it as cleverly as possible and as efficiently as possible, and brainstorm those kind of solutions.
It's true, doing it in that way of focusing on what you can do, like what is achievable with what you've got, For myself, I don't have like a steady income, but I've got all the time in the world at the moment. And so for the way that I've been running things is that I've been doing Kickstarters because I have the time to dedicate to running them and to managing the admin of them and doing all of the shipping afterwards and quality checking 3,000 pins when they come in. Like I have the time to do that, but I don't have the money to just buy those on my own from the get-go. And another thing that I want to look into doing in the future is more digital products. And the reason that I'm not desperately, but like very, very interested in looking into those is because those do not require physical shipping. If you're somebody that does not have storage for shipping like items for all of your boxes, your tissue paper, if you cannot afford to buy all of those extra things, then digital products are really, really good for you to get your item, your work, your image, your whatever, your creativity out there without all of the kind of overhead costs that are associated with a lot of traditional things.
Yeah, digital was how I kind of got my start in it because I've mostly made most of my money on digital commissions, which is just digital art online, which doesn't require shipping or anything that other people would have to pay for or I would have to pay for. So it is just get a piece done, send it off, work on the next piece. It does work in this sort of world that we live in now where we can survive off of purely like pixels.
Yeah.
But
an interesting thing with that too is that I'm assuming yours are always like one-off pieces. A lot of other digital products, like you put the work in and you make the item once and then it can be sold endless number of times.
Yes.
That's a thing that is worth looking into,
Yeah, it's kind of passive income is good to create. That's generally referred to as passive income as far as I know, but it is setting up something and putting it out there, which people can just take like freely and pay for as they need, and you don't have to put in any more time to it. You just leave it; it's out there and exists. Before we move on to Dante, I would like to just catch up with our Twitch chat. Really interesting perspectives on marketing, which seem to lead into talking about community and audience building. Do the panelists think the 1,000 true fans still applies, or seek to build a small yet loyal following? So I interpret that as, do you think it's better to create a bigger audience or a smaller audience that is perhaps more loyal?
I think my opinion of this is that Patreon is the best example of that, in the sense that a lot of people on Patreon or similar platforms, Ko-fi has the ability to do it now, there's various other subscription things, but like that proves in most cases that you don't need tens of thousands of people to be buying your stuff every day. You just need to have dedicated followers who are willing to support you in your dream. And honestly, like if you go on to Patreon, it's not everybody has it visible, but you can see that some people are earning enough just to live with 300 people a month are supporting them, and they're perfectly able to support themselves with that, and like that I think is amazing.
That was from Arborio Master, by the way, that question. And we've got some here from Jennifer Kerr Art. Would also be interested to know how many hours the freelancers spend per day making things like doing things like admin, financials, marketing, including managing social media. So this kind of comes back into the social media and the investing time. It's a bit of a mesh of the topics. How much time would you guys say that you actually spend doing the work that you advertise or advertising it?
I think it changes depending on the relationship that you set up. And this is the beauty of being a freelancer. Like, so that's something I did for a long, long time. And in that regard, you don't have to do any of that. you have to sign a contract and check that your money's coming in, and that's about it. Similarly, if you're making a game and then selling it to a company, you have really low overheads there. If you start selling your own stuff, then you have to do a lot more. You take on more and more jobs, and one thing you have to make that decision. The more that you start being a business person and a promoter, you have to do more marketing, you have to do more social media, you have to do more admin, because you have more things to do. You're basically adding jobs to your portfolio, and that's always worth thinking about when you are choosing which kind of relationship you want to have with your art and your audience, and where you want to position that. You have to figure out how much the more that you are in control and directly talking to your audience, the more work you have to do, because you have to wear every single hat.
Yeah, and that's a difficulty I'm facing at the moment, because I'm most definitely not a financial person, and I'm not entirely knowledgeable about all of the business requirements, like things that like relate to tax and all of that sort of stuff. So I'd be interested to hear from Dante, like how having a team helps that.
I think out of all of us, probably I would be the worst person to give advice to anyone about how to manage these things. But because for us, the most important aspect of our business, good or bad, was the product. So, okay, we needed to communicate to our audience, but the main factor of communication, we wanted it to be support. If someone has an issue, then they shouldn't wait a second to get in touch with someone to solve that issue. But when it comes to general chit-chat, we didn't really do much. We didn't promote ourselves as people, or we didn't try to influence anyone in any sort of decision. We just wanted to make sure that the product's integrity is absolutely 100%, and that when it comes to the investing time, it really ties in strongly, I feel like, because yes, our marketing has been abysmal for the start, and yes, our website have been in shambles for a long time, because we just didn't have the time to or we didn't allocate the time rather to get those things fixed, because we wanted to make sure that the product is accessible, people are helped out if they needed to use it, and it's up to our standards of perfection. And to be honest with you, for us, at least in our unique case, that benefited us in the way that, yes, people kept plugging the product, people kept bringing in more people. If you had a very serious website issue and the community got frustrated that they wanted to put a better picture for friends to post, then they gave us ideas and easy to use plugins and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I'm a bit with you there in that I really neglect absolutely everything aside from just doing the art in my practice. I just want to do the part that I love, and refine the part that I love, which is the art and the creative. So I spend as little time as I can, or I'll dedicate maybe an afternoon to doing like some scheduled posts or something like that. Because it does take away my energy that I would much rather be using drawing and things like that, because really it does get to a point when you work in something like this where it does become your habit, and if you're not fulfilling that need to draw, to create, to put stuff out there, then you kind of, it doesn't feel like you're working.
Yeah,
completely agree.
I think I hear this all the time in the industry, and I think what I'd love to see more of is more infrastructure, so that not everyone has to learn all these skills and learn all the financial and marketing and monetary skills. And I think we've seen a lot of that for computer games, and we're starting to see a little bit of that from games publishers and things like that. So that there are, it comes back to that community thing again, where there are systems that will help. There are people who are in a position to help you with marketing, or with, you can put money into it and let someone else do it for you. And also, I think we're that's one of the reasons why I decided to start publishing my games, so that I could learn the skills, so that eventually I could publish other people's games as well, so that they don't have to learn every single step that I have to learn. So we can, so you can also pass down skills to other people. If you sit down and figure out, I've got this app that helps me post online, or I'm using Xero for my finances because it's really simple. You can tell people that in your community and try to just share those skills. That's the way we all learn.
Yeah, I think that.
compare.
Oh,
Here you
sorry.
go. No, you
I was going to say the biggest thing that I've found is being able to talk to people in a similar situation, and not having to learn everything the hard way yourself. Is that if you're able to speak to other people and hear about their experiences and the problems they've faced and how they've dealt with it, really helps you before you even reach that problem. And then the other thing is just where do you want to prioritize your time and money? Like, what do you consider to be the most important thing? If, like Dante said, for them, the product itself was the most important thing, and other things caught up along the way. For myself, I need to be having money coming in to continue making my products. So marketing for me is a somewhat higher on the list priority. But it all depends on what it is that you're focused on.
All right, I'm just going to open us up to some Twitch chat at the moment. Jennifer Crow has also said that they're interested in knowing how those who sell physical game products may have fared during COVID. I found that I lost a lot of sales due to people no longer being able to play their games in person. They then continue with, I feel like I don't get enough work if I don't worry about spending several hours of work day marketing myself, which I get that too. You need to kind of have that balance of marketing yourself in order to keep people coming in, but you also need to be spending the time doing the work as well, which is a tricky balance. Ellie Jenny says, sounds like there's a need for marketing freelancers. And Match has said bookkeepers perhaps, but Jennifer Crow Art does come in and say a very good point, which I think we should touch on. Got to get enough work to have money to pay someone to do that for me though. Are you happy just answering that one, Steve? The one
Abura Mansa is asking about things that the computer field have done that tabletop games can emulate. What I've seen at things like PAX is there's a real big culture around supporting small designers and small startups getting out there and finding investors and audiences. There are structures and awards for that kind of thing, and financial boosts. There are also things like there's a place called Game Plus around the country, which is basically shared office space, so that if you are a small company, you don't have to hire a room and get, they give you a phone number and a desk and places where you can have meetings. There are structures like that are, and there are lots of talks and educational programs about all of the stuff that we've been talking about learning financial and marketing and business running and admin and things like that. Thankfully, we have the TGDA now, the Tabletop Game Designers Association, which is starting to do a little bit of that, and we're crossing over. We can use Game Plus if we want, and I think the computer industry has understood for a long time that there are people with great coding skills or great graphic skills or great writing skills, and a little industry can exist to get these people together to make product and then support them in everything else that they don't have and help them find a marketer and help them find a bookkeeper and things like that. And so often in board gaming, because the market is much smaller and there isn't as much money and industry around, we were all just like, well, I went from just being, it's all a cottage industry basically. I had an idea, made the idea, I taught myself all my own skills, and I've had to go all the way on my own. And I just love to see if we can in the future do more collaboration in that aspect. And there are some things that I know of that are happening in that area where there's companies who are setting up to in Australia to help you run your Kickstarter and help you do all the elements of production and delivery and distribution with that. As you know, they get a small amount. I've also there are some people who are setting up marketing deals with the same thing, where they will do all your marketing in return for a percentage of the Kickstarter. Things that so that there is as I say, the infrastructure there to help you not have to learn everything from scratch.
It's really interesting that I kind of see a similarity. Not that I know too much about the behind the scenes of this, but the game industry seems to be following the sort of lead of like traditional publishing, in the sense that there's now people that are like agents and publishers and whatever, where their job is to connect all of the individual parts. Like, say it's a children's book, they would have the writer, the illustrator, there'd be an agent who'd connect them to the publisher and everything. And it seems like the game industry is kind of moving towards that, which I think is really good, because that interconnectedness will only benefit like everybody in the long run.
Yeah.
And I'd like to bring us on to our last proper topic, which is going to be probably the most nail-biting one. Fear of the financial unknown, which is kind of how you budget for unpredictable income. How was it like when you started? It's okay if you don't want to discuss, but I can kick us off by saying I had nothing when I started, and now I have a tiny little bit because I learned how to budget. Myself, I had to spend a few years in complete disarray financially before finding a good budgeting system so that I could actually start making a savings and start paying, like knowing that I have rent there and all of that sort of stuff. Because myself, I'm just my own, I just support my cat and myself. I don't have any other streams of income other than my work. I've just had to get very penny pinching and save heavy, like save a lot, pinch your pennies, nothing, don't spend on anything unnecessary. Gotta eat, gotta pay bills, gotta pay rent.
Yeah.
That's me. How are you guys going?
Oh, sorry.
I've been to these kind of panels for 20 years on how to make money in the role-playing industry, and the same things always come up, like learn to cook, ride the bus, watch movies on TV instead of in the cinema, learn how to mend your clothes, all these things that help you live on a tight budget, and they'll never stop being true. Whatever kind of artistic thing you are, learn how to save money.
Yep.
That's just really important.
Yeah, I think for me currently, I am not like quote unquote employed, as it were. I'm doing my thing and also still trying to find like a full or part-time job, because ideally, if I had done it the way that I had would have preferred, would be to have started this as a side hustle whilst doing full-time work.
Now it's your main hustle.
because from everything that I've learned, and I researched it and everything, was that generally speaking, the best way to go about this is to have a steady stream of income and build this up on the side until it's at the point where it can replace that steady income. That's not how my life went. For me, I ended my contract at the job that I had, and in the meantime, I was like, you know what, I'm going to pursue my interest. That is still not replaced a full-time income, but it's still growing. It will eventually. And from everything that I've heard, unless you're one of the rare few that gets exponential growth and manages to make it overnight, quote unquote, as it were, then generally speaking, most people, it takes at least 3 to 5 years for it to become self-sufficient at the minimum.
Yeah.
And for you, Dante?
Oh yeah, so I definitely feel like what ties all of these topics together, and unfortunately I noticed that at an embarrassingly late stage of our project as well, is that planning sort of overrules anything else you want to do. If you are short of time, you have to make sure that you have time to plan ahead, and get a clear idea of what you wanted to do. I'm a very impulse-driven person. So, I love making tabletop stuff. I started making tabletop stuff. Oh, I love making music. I started making music. I love, I don't know, using these software. So I started to shift into softwares. And instead of, if I only plan out the things that I wanted to have in my project, in my product, in my passion, and I plan ahead where I'm going to acquire those things, whether it's money, it's skills, it's a collaborator, someone who can market your stuff. You need to open up a clean page on a drafting table and figure these things out before you attempt it. Things will change. The whole plan will burn to the ground at day 2, and you will need to replan. But the plan always needs to be there, because that gives you a clear indication of, if this fails, what am I going to do next? Or why can I not make this project happen? Or how can I still make this happen in some sort of capacity?
Yeah, so I think both Dante and Cassie said that things don't go to plan. It's still important to plan, absolutely. And it's great if you have a nest egg, or you have a day job. But curveballs happen, and probably the biggest thing is being just able to understand that's going to happen. That you can't plan for everything, and being an artist is dealing with uncertainty.
Having a lot of flexibility as well in that sort of situation. Being unafraid to put yourself in positions that you would have been afraid to if you had not, like, say I was going for a grant or something. It's like, this is insane. I don't feel up to this. I have major imposter syndrome about this, but I'm still going to do it. It's being incredibly stubborn with yourself, but also being flexible, which is interesting.
I mean, the thing that I have really embraced as time has gone on is like, well, what is the worst that is likely to happen? If I try for something, if I do this and it doesn't work, well then, okay, well it didn't work. If I try and go for a grant or something, the worst they can do is say no.
Yeah.
And
the thing
I'm
that
in
worries,
no worse a position than I was when I started, you know?
The worry is putting all your eggs in that basket, so that thinking that you're going to go ahead and have that grant come to you and have that money come to you. You always have to be flexible. You've always got to have another, don't go for one, just go for 1 million. Your likelihood you're never going to get any of them. So you just have to keep on working at what you can do.
Possibly one of the most important things is to diversify.
Absolutely.
Yeah, is have multiple streams of income, have many things going, so that if one thing fails, the whole house doesn't come crashing down.
Yes.
It's just one part of it, you know? Everything else can still keep going.
Yeah. And I also feel like when it comes to specifically financials, loans and other things that like income coming to you temporarily should be just a resort of helping you through difficult times, but it should never be a starting point. At least like in this industry, I've seen too many times where the plan didn't work out and they were already in a situation where they were in deep waters. So it doesn't matter how you started off, whether you just have one little tiny product that's feeling a niche and it's slowly making tiny bit of money that you're going to be able to then invest into other things to make more money for yourself. You will need to have something. You need to have the thing that propels you forward, other than just taking up a loan or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I've really stuck to doing Kickstarters, is because not only does that mean that it's then upfront money for me to put into things, but just through the process of doing a Kickstarter, I know whether or not there is a demand for what I'm trying to make. Because there is nothing worse, and I've seen this happen with a whole ton of people, is that they get so excited to make a thing and they put all their money into it without having checked to see if anybody actually wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah, spend wisely. Invest slowly, build slowly. It's going to take
slowly. Yes, I agree with you there.
It is better to be the tortoise than the hare.
Definitely in freelancing, in self-employment, it is definitely, for my point of view, I've always been like, I need to take things at my own pace. There's no way I am a fast person. And I see people making lots of money and I worry that it's going to come down. But I mean, I haven't seen that, so maybe I'm wrong. But I have, I just think go slow. Take your time.
And go at your pace, because it's going to be different, because nobody knows exactly what you are juggling. But it's so easy to look at someone and go, oh, they've got another game coming out already. Oh my God, I'm falling behind. But they have different priorities and monies and investment. They might be at a different position.
They might have a whole team behind them that you don't
they might
even
have
know
a team
about.
that you can't see. They might have, they might have someone who is their day job, who's providing them with all the money, because they're married or something, or they're independently wealthy because they inherited a bunch of cash or something, or they're just better. They just can write faster or make faster than you because that's just a natural gift they have.
It's not even a gift. It's just people are all different. People are always going to take things at their own pace, and there's definitely nothing wrong with your own pace, and embrace it.
But the best thing is you can do it.
You can, but everyone can do it. You just have to be real, careful. Be careful with it. And if we were happy to, we're about 1 minute over 3. So I would like to have a sign off with a little promotion. So this is Cassie's company. Would you like to elaborate further?
Yeah, sure. So for the most part, I make enamel pins. I also make stickers, dice bags, a whole bunch of other stuff. But basically the premise is that I wanted people that love cute and sparkly and girly, quote unquote, things to be able to show that they love, the RPG space as well. Because as much as I love the traditional grunge dark artwork, I also love this as well. And I want other people to be able to enjoy it.
I adore your pins, and I've bought some for my friends because I have so many pastel nerds. So they're nerdy and they're pastel, so I adore your work. So what's your next project?
I'm hoping, fingers crossed, if I can get it up and running quick enough to get a zine out now that that Kickstarter's doing their RPG zine kind of thing again. So we'll see if I can manage to get one of those up and running fast enough.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here, Cassie.
No
Next
worries.
we have Arkenforge, which is Dante's baby.
Yeah. So we do software for tabletop role players. We have an audio engine, the Soundscapes, to provide audio for your adventures. A map building functionality with Cartographer, so you can build interactive and animated maps. And we have the scenario, what we are developing currently, but it's already available to make your notes and prep your adventures before your session. The one thing that's coming up for us is the sci-fi genre. We just have been working on fantasy assets before. And this year, 2021, we want to dedicate the whole thing to sci-fi. So head to arkhamforge.com, and if you like sci-fi games and if you're interested in sci-fi content, you will have a link there for our Kickstarter to make it happen.
Might have to pick up Starfinder to get into that or something. Like, dang, that's exciting. All right, and you have been Steve D. here with Tin Star Games. Yes, very atmospheric and moody.
Friend Zane is a professional photographer, so he did that one for me. Fantastic. Tin Star Games, we publish role-playing games and card games. Our last year we put out Relics, which is a big book role-playing game about
so good.
Angels on Earth.
It's great.
There's a session, I think, starting right now. If you want to jump over to the session 4, where Jake will be running that, you can check it out. And we are hoping to launch a supplement for that in about 6 months. We'll take it to Kickstarter, and then you'll have even more Relic stuff to play with. If you also have more questions about being a creative and getting a startup, I also have a podcast which is called Lancing with Myself, as in freelancing. You can
That's
find.
cool.
I'll post the link in the chat.
Wonderful. I'm gonna have to go check that out because I'm
that sounds very good.
listening to a lot of podcasts.
Actually helpful podcasts, yeah.
Right.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve D. And there's my little flashcard. I am Helen Graham, aka Dewey on most things except for Twitter because they stole my name. But yeah, I'm a character artist. I'm an artist. I do all sorts of weird little stuff. For the most part, I do commission work at the moment. But I am getting together a few little character assets, and I'm going to start putting those up on Patreon for everyone to gather with their online gaming, because it's just a really good excuse to draw more characters. I love it.
Nice.
It's my main. I love drawing characters. I love getting to know a character. But yeah, so if you guys are ever looking for art, maybe go with me. I don't know. I love you guys. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. And I hope you guys can enjoy the rest of ArcanaCon 21 online. If you guys want any more information on that, you can check out Arc Online on Twitter at ArcanaCon, at ArcanaCon. And yeah, I hope you guys have learned something. I think this has been a very helpful conversation, and I would love to get any questions from you guys, any more questions on ArcanaCon or on our personal Twitters if you caught them. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I hope you have a great rest of the day of gaming and fun and staying cool.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.